Welcome to MetaBookNook, deep dives for curious minds. This is where we explore fascinating stories and unpack the insights hidden within, helping you get to the heart of what's most important.
That's right. We take sources like the one you shared with us today, a remarkable book, and really try to distill the most important nuggets of knowledge, bringing them into conversation.
And today we're taking a deep dive into just such a book. It's a story that's resonated with millions about a young shepherd boy, his dreams, and a journey that quite literally spans continents.
And it's just packed with wisdom about destiny, courage, and, well, what it truly means to seek your treasure.
Our mission in this deep dive isn't just to recount the plot points, but to really explore the wisdom woven into the boy's experiences, to understand the core ideas about following your path, even when it's, uncertain.
So let's unpack this. Think of this as a conversation just between us about what this incredible book might mean for you.
Okay, so the story begins with Santiago, a young shepherd boy in Andalusia. He leads a pretty simple life, right?
Yeah.
Traveling with his flock, content with familiar routines.
Yeah, the predictable rhythms, simple pleasures like reading, looking forward to seeing a particular merchant's daughter. Very grounded.
But his life is fundamentally altered by this persistent, recurring dream, a vision of treasure hidden near the Egyptian pyramids.
It's that initial whisper of destiny, isn't it? That moment when something beyond the ordinary breaks through. The book suggests these dreams aren't just random images, but a kind of communication, a language we need to learn to understand.
And he feels this pull, this compulsion to figure out what it means, which leads him to his first, unconventional guide.
Right, and this is fascinating because despite having this ingrained fear and distrust of gypsies from his childhood.
Yeah, he specifically seeks out a local old woman who is one. You get that little moment where he feels reassured by the image of the Sacred Heart of Jesus in her home.
Highlighting that internal conflict, searching for comfort in this unfamiliar space.
So, the old woman's take is really key. She tells him straight up that dreams are the language of God, a direct line to something bigger.
But she's also incredibly practical, demands 1/10 of any treasure he finds right off the bat. She says the dream itself is simple to describe, uses the language of the world, but interpreting it, that's harder. That's where her price comes in.
He finds her answer a bit.
Yeah.
Well, maybe frustrating, simplistic. He thinks, go to the pyramids. I can figure that out myself.
Exactly. But then the real catalyst arrives. This old man he meets just sitting in the plaza.
Melchizedek, yeah. This is where the core philosophy of the book really starts to take shape. He seems strange, claims to be the king of Salem, which sounds impossible.
Totally. And what's really unsettling for the boy is how he knows things. Personal details, parents' names, the seminary, the merchant's daughter, things the boy hasn't told anyone. It immediately sets him apart.
And Melchizedek introduces maybe the most central concept in the whole book, the personal legend. Can you unpack what the book means by that a bit?
Sure. The book defines a personal legend as what you've always wanted to accomplish. It's often something you know really clearly when you're young, Before life complicates things, it's presented as your destiny, your true path.
He contrasts this with what he calls very starkly the world's greatest lie. That phrase alone is pretty provocative. What is this lie, according to the book?
The lie is basically the belief that at some point we lose control, that our lives just become controlled by fate or circumstances or other people instead of our own choices and desires.
Right.
And Melchizedek points out that so many people give up on their personal legends precisely because they start believing this lie. They think their dreams are impossible or just not meant for them.
So the king offers this counter philosophy, this really powerful idea. He says that when you genuinely want something and that desire comes from deep within what the book calls the soul of the universe or the soul of the world, this sort of underlying interconnectedness.
Yeah, this consciousness.
Then all the universe conspires in helping you to achieve it.
Right.
It just flips that whole idea of helplessness on its head.
Absolutely. It suggests this deep desire isn't random. It's your mission, your calling, and reality itself is kind of designed to support you if you just align with it.
And for pointing the way, Melchizedek asks for payment, 1/10 of the boy's sheep. He also gives him something tangible, Urim and Thummim. These two stones, white and black, for reading omens when logic fails.
But he adds a crucial warning with the stones, doesn't he?
He does. He stresses that while omens can guide, the boy has to make his own decisions. It's not about just blindly following signs.
Exactly. It's about integrating that guidance with your own agency. Which leads the boy to his first really massive choice. Despite loving his sheep, he knows them all individually.
Yeah, he has real affection for them.
He makes the incredibly hard decision to sell them. He chooses to trade the comfort, the familiar, the certainty of his life for the terrifying unknown of chasing this dream.
That moment of letting go, it must be huge. It's a real commitment, driven by the dream and the king's words, facing down that fear, but also feeling that spark of excitement, putting action behind the idea.
And the universe, well, it doesn't wait long to test that commitment. His journey immediately takes him to Tangier in North Africa. And bam, culture shock.
Right. The language is totally foreign, customs are baffling, and almost instantly he gets robbed, loses all the money from selling his sheep.
Just devastating. He's stranded, broke, in a place where he can't even communicate properly. He feels that rush of despair, sees himself as a victim. The book describes him weeping alone in the marketplace, full of shame.
The complete opposite of the adventurer he'd imagined himself being.
But it's right there, at his lowest point, that he reaches into his pouch and finds Urim and Thummim. They survived the robbery. It's this physical link back to the king, a reminder of the omens, the path he chose.
He tries to use them, right?
Right.
Asks if the king's blessing is still with him. Then he tries to ask about the future. Specifically, will he find his treasure?
And they fall right through a hole in his pouch. The book presents this as an omen itself. He realizes, okay, there are some questions you just shouldn't ask, especially trying to pin down the future.
Ah, so the stones are for guidance now. Reading the signs around you, not for predicting results or letting you off the hook for acting.
Exactly. They literally fall away when he tries to use them as a crutch. And this leads to that critical shift in perspective. He could stay stuck feeling like a poor victim.
But he doesn't. He consciously chooses to reframe it, to see himself as an adventurer in quest of his treasure. That mental shift is so important.
It's the first real application of the king's lessons, and this new view helps him see opportunities, leading him to the crystal merchant shop. Now, initially his goal is simple. Earn enough to buy new sheep and go home. The personal legend seems kind of forgotten.
Replaced by wanting safety back. Understand?
Yeah. And working there, despite the language barrier, is where he starts really learning what the book calls the language without words. It's not just body language, it's deeper. Understanding through observation, action, shared purpose, enthusiasm.
He realizes he kind of already knew this from watching his sheep in nature for years.
Right. And the crystal merchant himself is such a fascinating contrast. He has his own dream, maybe his personal legend of going to Mecca.
But he's afraid to actually do it.
Totally paralyzed by the fear of realizing it. He actually tells the boy that if he achieved his dream, he'd have nothing left to live for, which just perfectly highlights the difference between dreaming about life and actually living it, pursuing the dream.
Meanwhile, the boy's presence, his energy, that language of enthusiasm, of things accomplished with love and purpose, even if it's just selling crystal, it revitalizes the shop. He introduces new ideas, works hard.
And the business thrives. He earns enough money not just to replace his flock, but to buy even more sheep than he started with. He's achieved his temporary goal and then some.
So here's the choice again. Go back to the comfortable, predictable, now more successful version of his old life. Or push forward into the unknown, towards the pyramids, following those omens and that faint pull of his true personal legend.
The temptation to just take the win, the earned comfort, must be huge.
But he chooses the unknown. Again, he joins a caravan crossing the Sahara. And this part of the journey is, well, it's profound. The desert is immense, silent, beautiful, dangerous.
And the camel driver teaches him about patience, about focusing only on the present moment, because that's all you can really control out there.
On the caravan, he meets another seeker, the Englishman, who is totally different. He's looking for an alchemist, obsessed with books, complex symbols, the theory of alchemy, aiming for the philosopher's stone, the elixir of life.
Yeah, a very intellectual approach compared to the boy's more intuitive, observational way of learning.
But they find some common ground. The Englishman actually recognizes Urim and Thummim, so his book knowledge connects to these tools. They talk about coincidences maybe not being random, but the universe communicating, more of that universal language.
The caravan eventually reaches the oasis, Al-Fayoum, a vibrant, complex place, a refuge during the tribal wars happening in the desert, governed by strict rules of hospitality.
And it's here in this sanctuary that the boy meets Fatima. The connection described in the book is immediate, incredibly profound.
He feels like he recognizes her, loved her before he even knew her. He sees her as a treasure maybe greater than the gold he's looking for.
Which presents another huge test for his personal legend. He's found love, a potential home, a reason to stay safe.
But Fatima, being a woman of the desert who understands destiny, she doesn't try to hold him back. She actually encourages him to continue, saying if their love is true, it'll endure. She'll be part of his dream, waiting. True love doesn't hinder your destiny.
That must be incredibly hard for him, though. He's grappling with fear, the war outside, potentially losing Fatima if he leaves. The camel driver's lessons help, but the stakes feel so high.
And it's right in this moment of internal conflict with the external threat looming that he finally meets the figure he's been sort of seeking, the alchemist.
The mysterious horseman with the falcon. Not what the Englishman expected at all.
No, not just a scholar in a tent. He's a man of action, deeply connected to the desert, the language of the world. And his first lesson is a test of courage, calling it the quality most essential to understanding that language.
The alchemist becomes his mentor, teaching him more directly about the soul of the world, how everything's connected, and crucially, how to listen to his own heart.
Yeah, that recurring instruction, wherever your heart is, there you will find your treasure. It reframes the whole quest, not just a physical place, but an internal alignment.
And he helps the boy face his fears, especially the fear of suffering or loss. Delivers that powerful line, the fear of suffering is worse than the suffering itself.
Explaining that a heart pursuing its dream, connected to the soul of the world, is always touching something eternal, touching God. The boy learns to accept his heart's worries, not as enemies, but as companions.
We see the alchemist demonstrate his understanding not with flashy magic, but through this deep connection. The most dramatic example is when they're captured by tribesmen, and the boy, guided by the alchemist, seems to speak to the elements and transforms into the wind.
It's allegorical, obviously, but it shows the point. True power comes from understanding and connection, not force. And it reinforces that other lesson. When you possess great treasures within wisdom, courage people focused only on the material often just won't believe it.
As they get close to the pyramids, the alchemist gives him a final practical lesson mixed with symbolism. At a monastery, he actually performs alchemy, makes gold.
Right. He shares it, but gives the boy his peace with that reminder about his previous losses. Everything that happens twice will surely happen a third time. A warning, maybe, but also a hint that patterns hold lessons.
He also tells that story about Emperor Tiberius's sons, illustrating how everyone plays a part, often unknown, in the world's story.
And this final lesson, the gold, it prepares the boy for the last leg of his journey, which he has to do alone.
So the boy finally rides towards the pyramids himself, no longer relying just on guides or stones, but on his own heart's voice. And his heart gives him that last vital clue. Be aware of the place where you were brought to tears. That's where I am, and that's where your treasure is.
He reaches the pyramids, immense, ancient, and he's just overcome, falls to his knees, weeps. That raw emotion, the tears, that's the sign. He also sees a scarab beetle nearby, a symbol of God in Egypt, another omen confirming this is the place.
So following his heart's instruction, he starts digging. Right there where his tears fell. Digs for ages, finding nothing but sand, struggling against the wind, exhausted, feels like failure.
And just as the alchemist hinted, that pattern repeats. A third time. He's attacked, robbed again, this time by refugees from the wars. They beat him up while he's digging.
And in that moment of pain, maybe desperation, thinking he has nothing left to lose, he tells them about his dream, the recurring dream of treasure at the pyramids.
And this is the absolute turning point of the whole story. The leader of the attackers hears this and just laughs at him. Calls him a fool for crossing a desert based on a dream.
Yeah.
And then, with incredible irony, the leader shares his own recurring dream. A dream about treasure buried back in Spain under a sycamore tree in a ruined church where shepherds sleep.
Wow. The revelation just hits the boy. The attacker's dream isn't just mockery, it's the final, undeniable omen. The treasure isn't at the pyramids.
It's right back where he started, under the sycamore in the abandoned church.
It's such a powerful twist. He had to travel across the world, face all those trials, learn the language of the world, understand his heart, just to be led back home.
The journey wasn't pointless. It was absolutely necessary to learn where the treasure truly was, and maybe more importantly, to gain the wisdom and courage needed to even recognize and claim it.
So he journeys back to Spain, finds the abandoned church, the ruined sacristy where he used to sleep, finds the sycamore tree.
He digs at the roots, and there it is, the chest, full of old Spanish gold coins, jewels, artifacts, hidden long ago.
He puts Urim and Thummim in the chest with the treasure, a physical reminder of the king, the journey. and reflects on how life really is generous to those who pursue their personal legend, not just in the gold, but in the richness of the experience itself.
And he remembers his promise to the old gypsy woman, recognizes her interpretation was right in its own way, knows he needs to give her her 10th.
And as he's sitting there, the Levanto wind starts blowing again. The same wind from the beginning of his journey. But this time, it carries the scent of the desert and the touch of Fatima's kiss from far away.
His final thought just brings everything full circle. From the fear in the desert to this renewed purpose in love. It's simple. I'm coming, Fatima.
So, as our deep dive into this really remarkable book comes to a close, you see the boy's quest for treasure wasn't just about gold coins in a chest.
Not at all. It's this powerful allegory for life's journey, isn't it? Recognizing that call of your personal legend, learning the world's language through experience, listening to your heart.
Overcoming the fear that holds so many back, accepting that struggle is part of it, and discovering that the treasure isn't always just at the destination.
But in the experiences, the lessons, the self-discovery along the way. And sometimes, as the book shows so beautifully, that treasure is exactly where you started. You just needed the whole journey to gain the wisdom and vision to finally see it.
It really leaves you with a compelling thought, doesn't it? Where might your own treasure be hidden? And what omens, what whispers of your own personal legend might you be overlooking today?
Thank you for joining us for this deep dive on MetaBookNook.
If this discussion has piqued your curiosity about the book, you can find links to explore The Alchemist further in the description for this deep dive.
Join us next time for another deep dive.